So here we are, this is Wrestle DX for Alpha, that's Kev, I'm Christian, we're here rolling again for what will be our third episode. So we're here to talk games, we're here to talk wrestling, and we hope you're here for the ride as well. So we've got a jam-packed show coming up tonight, we've got lots of things to talk about, but we're going to keep it fast, we're going to keep it fresh, and we're going to keep you entertained at the same time. So dude, where are we going to start off with straight away, man?
We're going to start off with how ridiculous WWE is.
Okay, that's a fair point. What is wrong with WWE, man? How ridiculous really is it this week?
Okay, so on Monday Night Raw this week, Braun Strowman tells Roman Reigns, I am going to challenge you for the Universal title at Hell in a Cell in a Hell in a Cell match, like two faces would.
Okay, so he's the ultimate over guy. The fans love him. The fans are reacting to Braun Strowman as if his face. Roman Reigns is the protected face, shall we say? So Braun Strowman has come in and gone, I want to challenge you for your title, man on man. I'm the big strong man, I'm going to fight you. And the venue and when.
And of course, and the fans went crazy because it's their favourite against the company favourite.
Okay. So where did it go wrong?
Well, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre come out and they challenge Braun and Roman to a tag team match. So late through the card, everything goes on. End of the night, it's Braun and Roman come out. The other two come out. The match goes on. Roman Reigns gets the tar beat out of him by McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. He goes for a tag and Braun just looks at him. McIntyre and Ziggler, they continue to beat on him. Braun just watches and then the match gets thrown out and Braun joins in. All three of them absolutely decimate him. One by one, the Shield members come out. They get all decimated, and then all three of them stand there, all grandstanding. This means, to me, that Braun Strowman has now turned heel.
And that's just
what doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense to me is why on earth would Braun Strowman challenge Roman Reigns like a man to his face and get the face pop, then later on the night have Roman have the tar beat out of him, where he's vulnerable by three guys, and not cash in, and then use the case to win the Universal title.
Well, yeah, if you really can cash the title in at any time, and you can go, ref, I got the case, and slam it down and get the pin. So Roman Reigns is beat down, he's beaten like a bloody pulp, he's in the middle of the ring, he can get beat there and then. And as he's a heel now, he should just do it, right?
Well, you'd think so, but apparently not, because he's already cashed it in for later on.
That just seems right. Yeah. So this is the nonsensical.
It's just me, but that's just crazy booking.
WWE booking. The thing is, though, last episode, right, we were talking about how good WWE's booking has been recently in terms of consistency of Raw and SmackDown, NXT and 205, and pay-per-view wise and so on to SummerSlam, and that was a bit ropey. But generally, really good. This week, perhaps there should actually be a rating system of how good WWE is in terms of its booking for the week, you know? How well did WWE book Raw, SmackDown 205, and NXT?
Well, WWE usually book 205 quite well, but ever since Triple H took over that. Which, by the way, leads us into Kalisto versus Buddy Murphy in the main event. Dave Meltzer gave this match 4.5 stars, and it was well deserved. It was fantastic.
So Kalisto, he's formerly in Mexico, came to Japan. He came in through the Cruiserweight Cup, was it, or was he already there by then?
No, he was already there by then. He was part of the Lucha Dragons through NXT.
Okay, so he's already been around the business of WWE for a while then. Obviously, Murphy has been kind of like thrown here and everywhere, and nothing's really stuck until he's now found his way and found his footing really well in 205. And now, of course, he's having 4.5-star matches.
It's more to do with Buddy Murphy. Right now, Buddy Murphy is like the Kenny Omega of 205 Live.
He looks like him a bit, actually.
He does the V-trigger as well.
Wow, what can you say? The V-trigger gets over. Man, so how good was this match? What happened? How was the flow? I mean, I'm going to say I have not seen it as yet, but as this conversation comes to an end today, that'll be the first thing that goes on my WWE network to watch.
Well, Kalisto had his little buddies outside the ring. and Buddy Murphy had Tony Nese outside the ring. But through the course of the match, everybody started interfering. The ref threw everybody out. And as the match rolled on, it just got faster, more hard hitting. It just looked fantastic. It just rolled really, really well.
Good. So it's continuous story development going on. Wrestlers, reaching down, digging deep, doing the best performance they can do, and then obviously coming out to a huge win. I guess. Are we going to throw a spoiler in on who wins or not?
If you don't want to know, turn away now.
See, I don't mind because I watch it for the performance and what the guys are doing. So I don't really mind whether it's been spoiled. But I guess if you haven't seen it yet, go and watch it. Apparently it's really awesome.
Skip now. Buddy Murphy.
Okay. And the other match...
The storyline right now is that Buddy Murphy's trying to find his way back to main event in the 205 Live roster. Because he's after that title. Which, by the way, Buddy Murphy gets his shot at the Cruiserweight title in Australia.
Is this like the Australian Big Tour, isn't it? It's like they're going for the greatest Royal Rumble, but greatest Superstar Showdown, something ever in Australia, aren't they?
That's it, the Super Showdown, that's right.
Yeah, so there's some special matches on there. Going to be Triple H is competing again. I guess Cena's having a match, is he?
No, Triple H against The Undertaker for the last time ever, and they are making a huge deal of this.
And so they should, man. So is this Undertaker's last match, or just the last time they're going to compete against each other?
I think it's the last match they're going to compete against each other. I think The Undertaker will just keep going until he just doesn't feel like he can do it anymore.
Until he has the Buried Alive match and doesn't actually come back. So, other special mention matches of the week then. I know from Raw, you got Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens for the IC title. Match of the week?
Definitely. Something else. See, they messed up with the whole Braun Strowman thing, but god damn it, Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental title. That was money. Another 4-star match by Dave Meltzer. And at the end of it, storyline-wise, Kevin Owens can't win anything. He's having a rubbish year. Sits there in the chair looking dejected and quits.
Okay, so if Kevin Owens as a character has quit, does that potentially mean there's two other things? Because I've seen he's changed his Twitter handle over the course of the last few months to Steen Fight Steen, which was his pre-WWE character name. So do you think actually he might drop into the Indies? Would he drop by, I don't know, All In, or drop into Ring of Honor? Or do you think actually he might just quit SmackDown and Raw, actually would turn up somewhere like NXT and raise their bar?
I don't know. I mean, Kevin Owens is a huge star. If there's one NXT guy that they brought up and not really ruined until this whole Braun Strowman storyline, it's Kevin Owens. They made a big deal of him turning up. He had huge matches against John Cena and a couple of wins.
Yeah, and Jericho as well.
Exactly. He had a huge storyline with Jericho being friends and then against him.
Yeah, good feud. Long feud.
Kevin Owens has not been wasted. Not on the main roster. Not like, quite a few other characters have been. But not Kevin Owens.
So I'm interested whether they're actually going to develop this storyline to be. I think actually it would make sense if they really are going to raise... because I'm aware that in the US right now, NXT is going to be debuting on TV soon, as well as being on the network. And it would make sense they've got
toying with that idea.
Yeah, so it would make sense they put a few of the guys who are more familiar on there. I still think NXT should stand on its own ground, because I think it has the merit to do so now. But who knows? Who knows where it's going to go?
Well, someone asked Triple H the other day if it's possible that any main roster guys would go back to NXT. Which I find a bit of a ridiculous question when you consider that Rhino was down there and Tyson Kidd dropped down to there as well. Cesaro's been down there. There was an extremely rare match where Adrian Neville, still Adrian, was the NXT champion and had a match against Rob Van Dam, which, by the way, good. If you haven't seen it, you should.
Yeah, I think NXT actually should stand as an interesting, almost exhibition type thing as well. That you can throw the special matches out there, as well as having the NXT guys do their stuff. I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't and shouldn't happen. I think NXT stands as a completely separate brand from Raw, SmackDown, and the main roster. And I think it's almost detrimental to say they've dropped down or they've come back or they're going up and going down from NXT or they've got the roster call up. When really it's a completely separate kind of promotion. It has a different vibe from its audience. It's a different vibe from its roster that's on there. Everyone's fighting to survive. Everyone's trying new characters and doing random stuff. NXT is a different vibe entirely.
It's its own beast. I mean, it gets away with being fresh all the time. I mean, you've got a constant guys come in, they do their thing, they get over, they go to the main roster, on they go. Here comes the new guys.
Yeah,
It's a constant flow. It's always new tag teams. It's always new women's champions. It's always new men's champions. All the time. It's just on to the next.
yeah, and then they talk about the world champions in terms of eras as well. So if you're a main guy, it's your era when you've won the title, and you'll run with it for quite a period of time, and that appears to mark the epochs in NXT. It's when it kind of changes its title a bit. It's when it changes its titles in terms of its intro. That updates and music changes slightly whenever there's a new era of a new champion, which I think is quite an interesting idea.
They used to do that in the 90s.
Yeah,
I remember WWF Superstars when Hogan was the world champion. It was one way, and then the Ultimate Warrior won it, and it was all these lights coming down over this land and all this lightning. Then the Ultimate Warrior's there doing his power grab thing, absorbing all his power. And it changed again, I think, when Slaughter took over. I can't remember how that went.
talking of Ultimate Warrior, right? So the WWE Hidden Gem match on Hidden Gem match last week on the WWE Network was Ultimate Warrior's appearance in War Games in WCW, where all this.
You mean the match that ruined British Bulldog's career?
Pretty much, with all this fire extinguishers that go off, and then in the center of the ring, Ultimate Warrior appears, and then he disappears and runs down again. And it's like, what? Okay.
That was the match. During that night, British Bulldog took a back body drop and landed on the trapdoor that the Warrior came through.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of his injuries.
Yeah, not good. It wasn't good at all. The match, it was pretty standard fare. I guess you had, I think it was War Games 99, I think this is. Or 98. I think it's 99. Because you had Warrior...
No, it would have been 98, because that would have been around the time period of that awful Warrior Hogan match.
No, it is, because Bret Hart's in that match. He starts off the match with DDP. There's Kurt Henning's in there. Of course, there's the famous story that under the ring, he apparently ate so much junk food that day, he had to, pull down his trunks and let one go under the ring as it were.
Raven put it fantastically. It says, when we had Warrior in WCW, he used to appear in a cloud of smoke like a Scooby-Doo villain.
I think it's a gimmick. I think it was different. It was the anti-NWO. It was the OWN. And he was over as a huge face, and he looked jacked as fuck.
And then the bell rang.
Just running around the ring doing clotheslines and the occasional power slam and jumps are good. But yeah, it was a short time in WCW, wasn't it?
Yes, apparently, according to Eric Bischoff, because Warrior was asking ridiculous money, and after the whole Hogan Warrior match at Halloween Havoc, it was a case of
no,
get out.
I guess it's a drawing name, isn't it? I guess it's only a drawing name because he came from the other place. Yeah. And Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Brian Knobbs all running around the ring as well. I was like, fuck off. I don't know. I just can't take Brian Knobbs seriously. As a performer in the ring, I just couldn't do it. It wasn't good.
And yet, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Saggs are back, killed Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, and they're still wrestling.
They was kicked him to death in a hotel room.
Really, I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, apparently the Nasty Boys upset one of Ken Shamrock's friend's girlfriends, and she got upset, so he went to challenge them, and then they ignored him, and then they went back to their room. He kicked in the door, and apparently one of them smashed him in the head with a phone, about knocked him silly, and those two had steel toe cap boots on, and about kicked him to death.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ken Shamrock got revenge at some point, I assume.
No, apparently not.
Is that guy still competing? Is he training? Or what is he doing these days? Has he died? No.
I don't know. I know he wants another run in WWE.
He's only about 50 right now, so... Because that was like, what? That was 98.
You say that, but Goldberg, anyone?
Oh, yeah, you say that. Yeah, it's true. Because I guess what Ken Shamrock's one where he literally came out of the UFC, which at that time was more brutal, perhaps than it is now. Certainly a lot less rules. So then he came out there in 97, 98, came into, was it Summer Survivor Series he came in on?
Oh, I can't remember offhand. His first toe dip into the WWE was being the special guest referee at WrestleMania 13 for Brett versus Austin at WrestleMania.
That's it, yeah. That was it. And then he came in to compete.
I think that's how they, they signed him. That's how they bought him in, and it was a case of, look, everyone, it's Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, I think that's the time when Vince really should have bought UFC. Had the opportunity to. Yeah.
No, Shane, no, that's silly. It's a fad. It'll go away.
No. Who knows how different UFC actually could have turned out if Vince had bought it? Would it have been more entertainment based? But hey, I guess we'll never know.
Kind of like the way it has become.
Yeah, because you look at like UFC's actual model, the way it competes, the way it promotes. It's got Vince McMahon's fingertips all over it. You know, the way it presents itself. It's WWE.
It's strange how like mixed martial arts and wrestling have kind of altered the other one in a way. I mean, there's no submissions anymore. It's tap outs in wrestling, and the pre-match conferences are more getting in each other's faces and wearing on each other's nerves and being a bit more character based.
Yeah, and you find that there's certainly a few guys who look like they got more wrestling in them. So like guys like Conor McGregor in UFC, he's a full-on character himself. I mean, he looks like a persona of a wrestling character.
Exactly, but he's like Floyd Money Mayweather. They saw wrestling, they understood what wrestling was, and then they used wrestling's mindset, wrestling's charisma-based characters, and became these larger-than-life characters. That's why they're making the big bucks, why other good fighters aren't doing as well.
No, absolutely right. And if you can take what works in WWE and the wrestling promotions, why wouldn't it work? And on that note, so I saw obviously Cody Rhodes has his own series on YouTube, just called Cody, and so it's kind of like his documentary every week going into counting down to All In, and he was talking about that, in fact, that how he's took knowledge of the business from behind the scenes, knowledge as a performer changing, and how that has culminated in what will be All In this weekend, which I guess is going to be on our tag nights here. Because All In is tonight. It's September the 1st. It's happening at midnight for us in the UK. It's interesting because I saw Cultaholic put out a video today, and I had no interest in watching it. And the video was, what are your predictions for the show tonight? And I actually, perhaps for the first time in watching a wrestling show, I actually had no interest in predictions or who's going to fight who or why. I think All In stands as a huge kind of stamp on the business to say, actually, WWE, what they do is great, it's brilliant, but they shouldn't be the only bull in town. There's more room for everything else.
Well, I've got the card in front of me. It's actually on the document. Do you want to go through it?
Yeah, let's have a quick look. So the matches I'm aware are going to happen are Okada and Marty Scurll. I have a real interest in this match. I've watched Marty since I was training. So I'm glad that he's got where he is, and here he is wrestling on what is the biggest stage outside WWE, outside Wrestle Kingdom, I guess. Let's browse down this document. And he's against Okada. I mean, that's just huge. I mean, if you've been following Being the Elite, where he's like, I'm never going to be that good because I'm still a light heavyweight, and here's Okada being, well, the beast. He's the Rainmaker.
Just give me 1 second. What's up? I'll grab it in a minute. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Also on the card, in the 0 hour pre-show, there's the Over the Budget Battle Royal.
Love that name. I do.
Now, the winner of this Battle Royal will face Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor title.
Oh, later in the night, that's right.
The contenders are for the Battle Royal: Billy Gunn, Brian Cage, Brandon Cutler, Colt Cabana, Ethan Page, Jimmy Jacobs, Joydine Grace. Sorry, I'm terrible with his name.
Yeah.
Marco Stunt, Moose, Punishment Hernandez, Punishment Martinez, and Rocky Romero.
It's interesting to see how this is going to play out, actually. I can see Rocky Romero perhaps getting a shot. I can see Punishment Martinez getting a shot, because, of course, they're current members of the ROH roster anyway. And I guess if they're going to still continue to tour, it won't be a big thing to move them around. To have someone like Billy Gunn run it, well, that could be interesting. Does that make him the ROH champion? I don't think that'll happen. He's more of a spectator character, but I love him nonetheless. And every time that Being the Elite are filming somewhere that Billy Gunn happens to be, they're all like, "Hey there, Billy Bitch Cakes, what's going on?"
Yeah, I saw him make out of him the other day. Also on the card, we have the Briscoe Brothers versus SoCal Uncensored.
Dude, that's looking stacked. I want to see that for sure. And it'd be interesting to see what matches they're actually going to put on first. Because this is
a pretty stacked card.
Because this is the pre-show, isn't it? So this is the 1 hour live to 77 million people across the US, which is actually more than WE get in terms of its US audience. So that's going to be huge for them.
Yeah, the women have their match, a four-way: Madison Rayne, Britt Baker, Chelsea Green, and Tesla Blanchard.
Oh. Tesla Blanchard's so good. She deserves to win that match, I think, for sure. I think Madison Rayne is an interesting character because, of course, she's in the women's tournament for WE, isn't she, as well, at the moment?
The Make Young Classic, yes.
That's right.
She's in that.
While she's still competing.
Which is ridiculous because they've already filmed it all, and everyone already knows what the final is. I found out the other day when I wasn't trying to look.
And yeah, you know what happens? You get a message come through on Twitter or something. Like, oh, for fuck's sake. Let's spoil it for me.
Yeah. I was looking at something else, and it was like, oh, by the way, this, and this, and now this person won't be doing this. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Come on.
It's like, yeah, I might want to follow like Impact Wrestling or whatever, but I don't want to see results.
Yeah, well, when you've got a 32-woman elimination tournament, and now you know it's down to just two, which the whole thing's out.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's a bit inconsequential, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like, can you have like watching the G1, but actually, you just want to watch the main event.
Yeah, it's like they recorded all of the G1 and then they went, oh, by the way, here's who's in the final. Well, that's 2 weeks of professional wrestling. There's not even much of a point watching. No,
there's not. So who else we got on that?
Oh, Kenny Omega versus Pentagon Jr.
Yeah, that's going to be huge.
That's got a nice flavour.
I do like Pentagon. Because I watched Pentagon, I guess, evolve from Lucha Underground. And then when they did that Lucha Underground versus Impact crossover show, which actually was last WrestleMania year, when they did the Super Show, and it's kind of weird because like most of the Lucha Underground cast has come into Impact since then. So it's been pretty awesome to watch a whole year of Lucha Underground on TNA.
Well, they had to push someone on TNA.
Yeah, they literally have had to. Actually, the match, what I'm really looking forward to, actually, perhaps more than the others in many ways. It's Christopher Daniels versus Stephen Amell. If you don't know, Stephen Amell, of course, plays Arrow on TV. Who, in Cody's YouTube show, of course, he's been following and training and developing with him. Obviously, Cody appears in Arrow as a villain, and Stephen Amell has actually appeared on. Was it last year's SummerSlam? Was it last year?
I think it may have been. No, it wasn't last year. It was the year before, maybe even the year before that.
So since then, he's actually.
Amell was against Cody. Because Cody was doing his whole Stardust gimmick at the time.
Yeah. So now Stephen Amell is wrestling trained, and his first match will be against Christopher Daniels, who shot with this 10-minute promo. It was probably one of the best promos I've seen in ages last week. So I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing what this comes out of it.
Yes. Don't forget, we also have the main event as Nick Aldis defends against Cody Rhodes.
And
Cody Rhodes win his dad's belt?
Or will it be the main event? Because I think the main event is still going to be Pentagon and Kenny Omega. But the match that has the most to stake in terms of is like you said, it's like, will Cody Rhodes win his dad's belt, or will Nick Aldis, the kind of the gentleman now that he is, retain it? In terms of prediction, I still think this is going to remain on Nick Aldis's waist, because in terms of what NWA is doing as a separate organization with that guy from Smashing Pumpkins, as they're touring like America, taking that belt here, there, and everywhere. I think Cody is pretty much still kind of tied to New Japan and Ring of Honor, so it would mean having an NWA World Title and a Ring of Honor World Title in Ring of Honor only. So I don't think they're going to hand it down to Cody.
There is one thing that you need to remember: the Elite have said that they're going to bind together and they're going to stay together no matter what. And the Ring of Honor contracts are about to come up.
They are. They're due up in January. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think Ring of Honor ones are sooner.
Are they? Oh, exactly.
The New Japan ones in January.
Yes, that's right. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, Cody's done absolutely phenomenal for himself. You know, it's about betting on yourself and then betting high and hard. And here he is now. He's got the whole pay-per-view centered around him, built from him and his love of the development of the guys, the Young Bucks. So now we have the biggest super show outside of WWE.
I know, it's tremendous. To say that they sold this out in less than an hour is ridiculous.
Yeah, it actually shows there's a thirst for something other than WWE's flavour. No, there isn't nothing wrong with that flavour, because the flavour's great. But you sometimes want to taste something different.
And that's the thing. The one thing that you've got to say about the WWE, in recent time, they have managed to bring in other flavours.
Yeah.
I mean, Raw and SmackDown is the WWE style. And it doesn't matter which show anybody's on, it's the same thing, really. But NXT is a different flavour. 205 Live, again, different. And I would presume that the NXT UK, again, would be different again.
It's going to be interesting how NXT UK actually plays out as its own universe. Are they going to be crossing over with the US version? Is it going to be stuck with its own roster, only based here? Because I think they're touring between 4 locations in the UK. So I guess they're going to be doing shows every other week or every other night, or maybe a block of 4 recording at a time. I've got no idea. I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
If they're going to run it like NXT, they'll do a block of recordings and then play it over the weeks. That's what I would presume.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you'd have to go to. I think they're going for like the Glasgow Skydome. No, Glasgow was that? Yeah, Super Show or whatever they call their big arena there. I think it's like Coventry, London, because they're still going to use the York Hall and Cardiff. I think the other one was. So I guess they were going to tour, one night after the other, or perhaps rolling around them week after week after week.
The biggest question for me is, are they going to have takeovers? Will they have their own, or will they extend the takeovers another hour and put the UK stars on it?
That's a good question, actually. That is. Will the takeovers be combined, or will they be a UK takeover? Because I guess NXT tours the UK pretty frequently, actually.
Yeah, it's good for the WWE to have NXT UK. It means they haven't got to bring the belts over, which I'm sure is hugely cheaper for them to bring their stars over, even when they're doing the Raw and SmackDown twice a year.
Yeah. I'm not actually sure who's like directing and producing and booking the shows, but they've got Johnny Saint as the on-screen director of the shows, so I shall see how it plays out. Well, I guess it's competition, is World of Sport, which is not great in terms of competition, whose ratings have plummeted to 0.6 of million, which is less than 600,000 people watching, compared to the 17 million who watched the one before. That is absolute nosedive. But then again, if most people's opinion was to watch that very first episode of the new series and then they went, I'm never watching this again, I'd completely understand why.
Yeah, it's like the special they did the other year. I was embarrassed to even watch it. I couldn't eat. I just couldn't watch anymore.
No, it wasn't quite sure what it's trying to be, was it? It wasn't good.
No, and that's the thing. I think it's trying to be too WWE, like TNA tried. It's be you. Don't be them.
Yeah, innovate, not.
You can't be them. No one can be them.
No, not yet. Not until they've got their feet out of the ground, as it were, and and things start working. When people start talking about your stars, then you realise you've got somewhere.
The only company that can really compete really with the WWE right now is New Japan.
Yes, and talking of New Japan, I saw a news article today, not an hour ago, where it says they've now signed a weekly TV deal in France for a 2-hour show, and that also will include going to the UK, Belgium, and Italy, having a 2-hour dedicated weekly show for New Japan, which would probably put it up against Raw.
It's an interesting time again. It's turning into the mid-90s. We'll have another war.
But then you've also got Progress now have a show on Free Sport, which is on Freeview. They now have a 2-hour show on there as well, which is, I guess, is WWE linked, because I guess Progress work with WWE. So, wow, interesting times. Wrestling geopolitics all again.
Yes, it's a strange time. I mean, WWE is still helping out Evolve as well. Not this coming weekend. Weekend, they've sent Velveteen Dream to do a couple of shows for them.
Oh, that's awesome.
To give the fans a bit of an extra boost and a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, dude. Evolve obviously began as, I guess, Ring of Honor Mark II, because it's Gabe Sapolsky's promotion. Of course, ran Ring of Honor until 2009, and then split off to make Evolve.
And there's nothing wrong with any more Ring of Honor.
No.
Ring of Honor's again its own beast.
Yeah, it certainly has become that. I think we had the conversation a couple of weeks ago that it's finding its feet now with its production style. It has a certain look, has a certain style. Its audience is very much in it, and that they believe in the product. And I guess it's actually made up by a majority of smart fans as opposed to family fans, which it does put it in a bit of a pigeonhole really when it comes to expanding your merchandise. But actually, look at what the merchandise they've done with the Bullet Club. It's huge.
Not even a crossover with Tekken 7.
Crazy.
Brian Fiore in Tekken 7 actually wears a Bullet Club t-shirt.
Yeah, also you can put one on King as well. You got Okada's gear in there for King as well as a special outfit, so crazy.
See, this is what I mean. WWE are the boss still, but New Japan are just nudging in there everywhere.
Yeah, they really
it's
are.
Like we've now got our characters in Fire Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, officially.
We're now getting television deals on your turf that's been yours for a long time.
I mean,
and the whole the upset of Madison Square Gardens.
Do love that. Madison Square Garden, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and it's happening WrestleMania weekend.
Exactly. It's interesting times.
Right, so I guess we touched on video games there, so I guess that kind of flows us in quite nicely to what we're going to be talking about next. So this week in terms of video games, there's been quite a few interesting announcements. I guess Fire Pro has been delayed in the UK, although it's just had its release in America, physical release that is. It's now been delayed over here to September the 19th, which sucks. I guess it's because they don't actually have a publisher for the European market yet.
It's a bit of a niche game. I mean, if you're a fan of wrestling games and you know where to look, you've been able to play this for years.
Yeah.
But with it being the newest one, it's not that easy to put your hands on.
And so also 2K19 from 2K Games has made its big debut this week in terms of 2 videos onto the WWE's video platform of the new characters that are going to be unveiled in its 2K19 game. So that's been big news. So 85 characters sit on its roster right now. All the usual.
It's a little bit more than that because they officially announced 85 characters. But when you take into consideration that AJ Styles isn't one of those characters listed, but is the guy on the cover, Daniel Bryan's got a showcase in there, but again, not announced. They've announced the Ric Flair Special Edition with the DLC for that, which again, none of those were mentioned, and there's quite a few characters in that. And they also didn't mention Rey Mysterio, even though they did mention Ronda Rousey, both of which are the pre-order extra characters.
Yeah, they're the pre-order bonuses, aren't they? So you get your hands on Ronda Rousey and Rey Mysterio if you pre-order early. And I saw Rey Mysterio put out a video this week on his YouTube channel, which also appeared on Being the Elite as well, where he's obviously shot his promo for All In. And then he kind of breaks character a little bit, where he's just like, the guy who's recording the show is the guy who on Lucha Underground played Dragon Azteca. He's like, man, hold on, I don't even know how many people are even going to turn up. There's a bit of a fun rib on them. I guess that also means they're going to be playing in the ring against the Young Bucks, which of course is their match, so. Which should be interesting to play. So I think it's like the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, is it? Versus, I don't know, it's Rey Mysterio, Phoenix, and Jason.
Oh no, it's not Hangman Page. He's got a street fight.
Bandito.
Yeah, it's Kota Ibushi with the Bucks.
Kota, that's it. Kota with the Bucks, that's right. Yeah, because Hangman Page is going to be wrestling. I assume it's going to be Joey Ryan at some point in the night.
I think it's Joey Ryan. It's Joey. I can't remember his name. Sorry, everyone.
Joey Janela.
And Joey Janela is his official opponent, but of course, over the last few months, the character of Hangman Page did indeed kill Joey Ryan in storylines. And now, of course,
which I'm sure gave Jim Cornette a raging hard on at the possibility
of Dick wrestling.
Joey Ryan being murdered.
Yeah. So I mean, since then, basically, the storyline is that Hangman Page's boots have been talking to him, you know, gaping at the mouth, just talking about they're kind of possessed by the spirit of Joey Ryan. Just yeah, so that should be fun. Man, so yeah, wrestling's fun. And I think that's the most important thing. Wrestling is fun again. But so of those 85 characters, are any of them actually going to be fun to play? What I mean by that is because every time WWE has come out, the first game I've ever played has always been glitched. From like 2012 onwards, something in the first match always breaks. I don't know what it is or why. And also, every character, apart from the finishing moves, tends to be very much the same character. Every move has the same kind of feeling to them until you start tweaking out and getting in there and move tweaking and stuff. So I've always been disappointed about that in terms of 2K games. I thought they'd be much more unique than they're not. So I really hope that they sort out the online side of things this time around, because the online side of things, last 3 or 4 years has been exactly the same. There's no lobby system. You're matchmaking it in a game where you're thrown into what is effectively a practice arena, where guys would join you matchmaking style, then you'd have a match. But you have no idea who it is you're going to compete against, and you can't arrange a match beforehand. So you can't go, hey mate, do you want to fight a couple of creative guys I've made? Rey Mysterio, who wasn't in the game. Do you fancy throwing in like your created guy? Perhaps we'll fight, I don't know, Yushin Thunder Liger or something. But no, you can't do that because you can't talk to each other. All you got is a matchmaking game. So you might effectively have a made-up decent character, and then you find yourself against 3 guys who effectively have the moves list mixed of like Rob Van Dam and the Undertaker, and the guy that's like a gimp or something. You know what it's like.
Yeah, do you know what I really miss those times when they don't announce everybody? I can't remember which one it was, but you go through the storyline mode, and you're supposed to be set up for a tag team match, and your partner gets taken out. So you're there, and you get told, "Oh no, who will be your partner?" And all of a sudden, Rob Van Dam's music plays, and out comes Rob Van Dam. It's like, what's he doing there? He's not here. He's not on the roster. What is going on? Rob Van Dam's in the game, that's how they brought him in. That's how they unlocked him in one of the games. I can't remember which one it was as well. A few years ago.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's cool.
I was blown away when it happened.
Because I guess in terms of so that's an interesting point in talking about games. And when did wrestling games stop having a story mode? Because I guess that there was like the kind of like they had a story stuff, and then they also had like a championship manager kind of mode where you arranged your roster any way you wanted to. Then it kind of had your own stories, the way you could play them out. And then it started adding modes instead of that. So I can remember like 2K13 had like the Attitude Era of kind of like marquee matches as its storyline stuff.
Yeah, it's either you went over the old stuff, and then they did it in 13 where it was the Attitude Era, and then in 14 it was the Showcase.
That was it, yeah, the Showcase matches, yeah.
And then last year they didn't do it because I don't know, maybe Brock Lesnar killed everybody he's ever been in the ring with.
Yeah, because 17 was really weird because it had those blandest menu ever, just squares with just text, and I don't even think it had a career mode at all. I think it was just exhibition and online.
No, they didn't even have a showcase mode. In fact, they did once the Hall of Famers were added. And even then, it was just a case of like, here's a match or 2 from this wrestler. in the past.
And what did 2018 have? Was there a career mode? No, I think I did start the career mode actually in
No,
2018.
that was sorry, my mistake. 18 was that one.
Yeah, I think
So you had
2018.
Brock Lesnar on the front.
Yeah, and I think I played as a guy. You had to create a guy that was and you started it in NXT, but it was so bland as a story, or so bland gameplay wise. You had a default guy who looked default, and then had a moves list that evolved every match. So I guess it kind of made sense that you became a wrestler from being a nobody. But actually, it made the matches really bland. You couldn't make a guy that you wanted to play the career mode with. You kind of had to play with a guy with trunks and basic boots, and then he eventually got better and better and better. Then you evolved to SmackDown, where you can choose colours for your guy. And it's like, for fuck's sake. That wasn't good.
It's a good idea, but poorly executed.
Yeah, it gave you like the arena to walk around in first person, and you had to kind of talk to the guy who's outside the arena, the car guy. Then you go talk to Paige in the corridor, and then Triple H would say, "Oh, go to have a match," and yeah, it would just look terrible. It was just so stiff the way you walked around. It didn't feel like going to a show at all. But who knows? I don't know what they got for 2019's edition.
Do you know what I've always thought these games would benefit from? A ragdoll system.
A ragdoll system. That ragdoll physics.
Is that
I
a
have it.
ragdoll system? Just sometimes, because everybody falls the same way, everybody gets hit the same way. It'd just be nice just to, I don't know, from an unexpected hit to ragdoll a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see why you'd say that. I did prefer in earlier SmackDowns the fact that if you did a powerbomb, for instance, you could kind of direct where you wanted to drop the powerbomb, or a move.
Do you know that was from 11, and I loved 11.
Yeah. So
Ele-
when did they take that out? 2016, because that was the shit one. I don't think 16 had that. 16 was really stiff. I think
you know what?
15.
I think 15 was the worst in recent years because that had the worst roster. It had absolutely nobody in it, and the few people that were in it were you didn't care, and anybody that was worth having you had to download in DLC.
Yeah, that's right. 2015. You had to wait.
It was one of the worst. Yeah, 15 had about 88 wrestlers, if you didn't count like, 3 different versions of Del Rio,
You're right. Yeah.
and that included the DLC as well.
Yeah, 15 was a bad point. I think 16 for me actually kind of sucked a bit more, but I think the story mode had the return of Austin because it wasn't in last year's edition, and you get to play out the The Rock and Austin's feud as the storyline.
Yeah, the Austin one. It was definitely 16.
Yeah,
Austin because it was Austin 316.
I didn't even make that connection, but yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, that wasn't. I thought that was a bit of a low point in terms of its gameplay wise. But yeah, before that you could direct a powerbomb where you wanted it to land. As you did a move, you could kind of steer it towards a ladder or a table. That was cool. That wasn't in last year's edition. If it was, it was really slow in terms of how it did that. And the ability to put up ladders between the apron and the ring. Sorry, the apron and the barricade. That wasn't in 18 at all. I could find to pull it off anyway. As well,
No.
it was in 17, but I guess they take in and put these things in because wrestling games kind of always mirror the new activities that have been added to the events. So, like we said, like last week when Shelton Benjamin did his run along the ladder, they added that feature in that you could then run up the ladder in the game. You've seen it quite a few matches this year where you've seen them use the bridge. We saw it at War Games like last year with the ladders and the tables wedged against the outside. I kind of hope that we're going to include that.
Horrible. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. And the ladder matches on NXT all kind of always all featured that at some point. I want to be able to climb the ladder and splash on the outside to a guy laying on a bridge table or a bridge ladder and see what happens. So I'd be interested to see what they're going to do this time around. So I'm looking down at
it'd be also interesting to see how big this roster will be because I made the count of 189 wrestlers, not including doubles or different personas of wrestlers in 2K18. And if they've started off with 85, and I've managed to pull together probably another 15 on top of that. But the thing that I've noticed the most,
Okay.
it was a lot of Raw and NXT talent that was unveiled. Very few SmackDown talent, no 205 Live, and free agent wise, it's. I mean, I suppose you could call Big Show free agent because I'm not quite sure what show he's even on now. He's been out of it so long. And The Undertaker as well. I'm sure he's probably Raw because it was put him on Raw, but still.
Yeah, because what does take us? I got no idea. Well, that's the other thing. So I guess, is The Rock going to be in there?
The Rock, he's been announced. Has he been announced?
Yeah.
The Rock will be in there.
Yeah, I think so.
The Rock will be in there.
So what sort of ones
I
that?
virtually guarantee it.
So this time around, some of the wrestlers of note that I've pulled out. Undisputed Era are going to be there. So Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong. Well, the Roderick Strong wasn't announced, but of course it was in last year's game and it's still there. So I assume he's going to be floating around. Whether it will be his Undisputed Era
No,
version.
it was announced.
Was it?
Was announced. I've got him listed.
Trent Seven, Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne of the UK guys.
Pete Dunne.
Oh, so his finishing move is actually going to be in the game now. You couldn't just improvise and have it look pretty close, but
And not to mention as well, I'm sure he's going to continue his war on fingers.
yes. Baszler is in there. Lars is in there. Bobby Roode's now an actual character as well. I think he became down as DLC last time round. I think, or there was an update.
A second. I'm not quite sure.
Roddy Piper apparently he wasn't in last year's, so he's now back.
No, Bobby Roode was on the disc last year.
Okay, and Vader, Big Man Vader, is in this time round. I'm not sure if he skipped last year's edition. He's been in there previously.
No, he was in it last year. He's been in it the last few years.
I noticed he's been in there previously. I wasn't sure about last year, and so I obviously passed away this year. So I guess he might be in there for other reasons, I guess. And Aleister Black. Finally, we can.
Aleister Black was DLC last year.
So this time we get to fade to black somebody properly on the main roster. Now I don't know about you, right? So do you end up playing more as characters that you've created and downloaded and tweaked a bit, or do you play as the guys who are in the game automatically?
Me, I don't find the time to make characters anymore.
No.
Terrible.
And
I
then
used to spend hours and hours and hours and just creating one. Now I don't have time to pick up the pad half the time.
yeah, same here. So, but the thing is, there's a huge dedicated audience and fan base who does that for us, so it's absolutely fine. Okay, but also, here's the thing. Downloadable DLC, is it going to be paid, and is the stuff in the game going to be locked off behind currency? Which is a big, huge thing this time around. Because the last 2 years, all the in-game stuff has been hidden behind currency, which has got smaller. How hard it is to unlock stuff has got harder in terms of its value. Do you think this time it's going to be paywalls?
I don't know. It's difficult to say.
Do you want those moves? Well, that's $5.99, please. You want to be able to do the V trigger? Well, that's $5.99.
I hope they put a really good version of Buddy Murphy in this as well.
Hopefully, yeah. Of course, we won't make Kenny Omega as everyone always does, and we want his one-win game in there. It was in there last year, eventually, because it came down as part of the DLC expanded moveset, which cost you $4.99.
Well, it had to because it was part of Killian Dane's moves, the Ulster Plantation.
Yeah, crazy. I guess as we continue our wrestling game foray there, so I guess it makes sense to move into our wrestling game conversation that we've been found in the last few weeks, where we've gone through the 16-bit era, the 32-bit era of wrestling games when games went 3D. So I guess this is as wrestling games went 3D continued, part 2. So 64 and the 128 era, the 6th and I guess 7th generation of wrestling games. So, dude, what stands out for you, man? When did that generation of wrestling games come to your mind, or came to your console?
You see, it was during this time period, for me, it was more the PlayStation. It was all about the SmackDown games. The Raw games on the Xbox just didn't cut it, and I can't say I really played the GameCube versions, the WrestleManias and the Dead Reckoning. I can't say. I think I played a couple of matches, but it just didn't feel right, especially after SmackDown at that time. SmackDown was so fast, smooth, fluent. It was just a blast.
Yeah, it's good fun to play. So I guess we came out of in the previous episode. So in the 32-bit generation, I guess kind of rocking over to 64-bit of the 5th generation, you had THQ, EA, Acclaim, all holding a different license. In this era, all the competition is gone. There's only WE. So what it seemed to happen is that THQ went, well, I know what we'll do. We'll put a different dev team on a different console and then make a different series of games. It's like you said there, the SmackDown series by Yuke's in Japan. They were making the SmackDown series, as well as its Japan equivalent, which was called Tetsudoko Budokan. And you also had the Raw games that came out on the Xbox. And then on the GameCube, there was the WrestleMania series, which then became the Day of Reckoning series. And you had 3 completely different types of wrestling games on the same era of generation of consoles. It's like you said there,
I've got to say, it was a bold move to completely go with 3 different sets of wrestling games instead of just porting it over to the different consoles. That's bold.
yeah, because you know that that for that generation are exclusive. So that means if you didn't have all 3 consoles, you didn't get to play all that generation's wrestling games.
No, and that was the thing. I did have Raw because I did have the Xbox.
Yes, I think you had it for completionist's sake because it was shit.
It just didn't click with me. It just didn't feel right. But like I said, SmackDown was already established.
Yes,
and it was already, by the time Raw came out, it was already on its 6th or 7th edition.
Yeah, so SmackDown 3, I would say, came out. It was the first PlayStation 2 title.
What's it, sorry?
I think SmackDown 3 was its first PlayStation 2 title. I think.
It was just Bring It. So yes, SmackDown 3.
SmackDown 3. I guess
it was the awful one.
Yeah, it wasn't. It's the one that perhaps. That's actually the first time they had the full entrance ways, where they had the characters do the full walk and so on, but their mouths were all missing.
They did the freedom thing, and what you did meant who you wrestled and who you unlocked. But the entire storyline mode was 3 matches, you're done.
Yeah, that's right. That was it for you. Your Raw, your SmackDown, 3 matches every time, done week after week.
And I actually do believe this as well. They spent more time on the 3D video package to put at the beginning of the game than they did on in-game options and modes.
Yeah, because I think it was missing modes that were in SmackDown 2, wasn't it? It had lost the casket match.
So
it lost
much.
I think it had the TLC. I think that's a standard that time. And what else did it lose? I think the cage became the Hell in a Cell, didn't it? Or was it still the 9 grid?
No, I don't think it was for another game before it was the proper Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, so I seem to think was it Here Comes the Pain was the first one to have the full size Hell in a Cell. Which is
I think that came with Slobberknocker as well.
That's it. Slobberknocker mentioned. And every time we saw 3 stages of hell, we kept thinking, "Oh my god, it's the WCW cage." No, it isn't. No. Yeah, SmackDown 3, I guess, is a bit forgetful. SmackDown 4, which was Shut Your Mouth. I think that's actually where the gameplay slowed down a bit, became a bit more simulation based.
Yeah, I think you're right.
When it appeared to be getting it right.
Just Bring It, Shut Your Mouth. I think Shut Your Mouth, or was it? I can't remember which. I think it was Shut Your Mouth that actually had one of the best rosters. It had so many champions. Just looking over it now, I mean, you had so many guys that had already been or about to be breakout stars. I mean, it was quite a stacked roster. Steve Austin, Rick Flair, Raven, Randy Orton, although it was his super early debut days where he was using that overdrive finisher.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle, Kevin Nash, Kane. So it was an odd title because you had Hogan in there as well, and he wouldn't appear in it for a few games.
Was
after
Hogan
this.
still in there as like that Captain America style gimmick he had?
Oh, that Mr. America thing. I
Yeah.
don't think they put him in as that character. Not that I remember, anyway.
Considering I have the game over there, I might actually have to go put it on and find out. But yeah, then and Here Comes the Pain, which I think was my favourite one of that era. The gameplay got a bit faster. It was the resolution of the characters got better, and the tables were destructible from the outside. So if you did a move like the F5, I got a little clip where and you could do male and female matches, because I've got a clip where I'm Brock Lesnar and I fight Victoria and do the F5, and it kind of glitches her face on the edge of the announce table and it breaks through. It's sweet as fun. Okay.
You know what? I was mistaken. It's Here Comes the Pain that's got the best roster. It's got the Undertaker in there. Goldberg is in there. That's where you got Brock Lesnar in there. You've got the Dudleys, Jericho, Christian, Eddie Guerrero, Edge. Got Hurricane there. John Cena's there. It's John Cena's first outing. Of course, Kane's in there. Kevin Nash is there. Kurt Angle, Randy Orton, who's a
Is this the
little
one
bit more
actually that's got
legend killer there.
the NWO as its storyline mode?
I don't know if Scott Hall made it there because by that time he'd been
They-
that much of a cunt.
But they'd swapped him out.
and-
They'd swapped him out for X-Pac.
Yeah.
Yeah, the storyline mode, it was X-Pac there. It's like no, even the videos that had Kevin Nash, but had Scott Hall rather. But hey, that was some good days, man. That was good days of gaming.
And no one that can stop me.
You and me, bra and panties match right now.
I win.
No, Brock, we all win. SmackDown, here comes the pain.
So then, of course, I guess that generation also introduced us to SmackDown versus Raw. Was that?
Yes. The following year was SmackDown versus Raw, and Ross was Rock together.
Yeah, because that's when the roster split happened for the first time. No, the second time round, I guess. And in game it had like Ric Flair as the owner of Raw, and you had, I think, Vince or Shane as the owner of SmackDown.
Vince is SmackDown.
Yeah. And the whole storyline mode was based around that, and you could then, I think that was the first one where you had the championship manager style stuff, where you could actually dedicatedly split your roster for your Raw and your SmackDown guys, and then you could run shows and promote like shows and events night by night of the booking effectively. And I think for a lot of people that's actually their most popular one. I'm aware that over on Up Up Down Down, which is the YouTube show done by Kofi Kingston and the guys of the New Day, they literally have a dedicated episode every week where they're playing SmackDown versus Raw 06. But so we take a quick step back then. So on that, so that's kind of your SmackDown 06 up to SmackDown 06, I guess. But like you said, on the other consoles, on the Xbox, there was Raw and Raw 2, and I don't think there was any other Xbox titles that were wrestling based, were there?
No, Xbox was severely lacking in wrestling games, no matter where they were from.
Wait, no, Legends of Wrestling came out.
That doesn't count because that was awful.
Legends of Wrestling front cover had Big Daddy and Rob Van Dam on the front cover. If you're a wrestling fan.
And that's where the goodness ended.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think Kevin Shamrock made it into that game, off the top of my head. Yeah.
If I was him, it'd be nothing I'd be bragging about.
Macho Man, I think Sabu's in there as well. Yeah, it was a mix match. Yeah, it was a mix of lots of different guys. But yeah, so what was wrong with Raw? Where did Raw go wrong? Because it looked beautiful compared to Raw and SmackDown. So SmackDown on the PlayStation, Raw's Xbox version of WWE Raw actually looked really good. But then that's where it ended because the gameplay was absolutely shoddy.
It looked good, but it felt clunky. It didn't have that smoothness that SmackDown had. SmackDown from day one was quick and smooth.
We had fighting game mechanics effectively, didn't it? So
yes, yeah. And this felt very clunky. It was very like, I shall do a move and you shall take it.
grapple.
And now we shall reset to our usual stance, and then we will move into the next stance of movement or grab.
Yeah. So
punch.
And it was very much like the 2002 roster of WE, but it was even smaller than that. It was a very small roster. I don't even think it was 16 guys.
And that, to be honest, it was quite forgettable.
But it is. Just Incredible is in the game.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Just Incredible made his way into WE Raw or WF Raw. And then Raw 2 came along, which was better. It added matches in the beyond single and tag matches, because a ladder match came up in there.
What I do remember about Raw 2 was they tried to make it so there was kind of generic storylines that any character could fit into.
That's
But
right.
yet still, it was a little bit shot at. I mean, I remember someone playing as Booker T and was going through a back room and something fell next to him. It was like, who was that? Who could have done that? Who tried to hurt Booker T?
You know, I'm kind of getting vague memories just coming back, because I did play through Raw 2 story, and that's right, because it had a championship manager style before SmackDown did, where you could technically book Raw, book SmackDown, and so on. Yeah, and you could kind of interfere in matches, and what that interference usually was a guy walking in the back, and you'd drop a box on them, and then it'd be like you'd fight them in the main event. You know, you didn't go out there and hit them with a guitar or anything. No, you just dropped a box on their head, and they'd be like, "Oh no, who hit me?"
Oh, the plot thickens. It's kind of like an NXT storyline right now. Who murdered Aleister Black while injured?
I think it'll be Cassius Ohno, but hey, that's what I think anyway.
If they did something with Cassius Ohno, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be him.
And then they'd probably do something with him. They'd send him to the main roster, job him, and then he'd probably quit.
I do think he's got more of a wrestling trainer role actually, on NXT. So I don't think he's necessarily a competing wrestler. I think he's just doing his thing in the back, the training wise.
Yeah, they've not really used him. But then again, they wanted to do that with Rhino, and then they sent him up to the main roster.
Yeah, they
but
put
then
him
again, they needed to bolster the rosters when they split them again.
Yeah, team with Heath Slater, and then, their tag team is over. It really is. They're doing really well.
Yeah,
So-
for about 10 minutes. It was
Yeah.
B Team.
Beating. So that was.
B Team.
So I'm just thinking about the Raw. So they had Raw, had the SmackDowns. So on the GameCube, it had something completely different. It had like its own titles, didn't it? It had X8, which was WrestleMania X8. That was pretty solid as a game. I don't recall it being bad. I recall it being quite experimental and being very different to Raw and being different to SmackDown. It was certainly much slower, kind of simulation paced. It felt like a fighting game style.
It felt to me that they tried to emulate No Mercy.
Yeah, they had like the hard grapple system, so you could press and hold a button, and you kind of went, bruh, and then you grab someone. Yeah, that was right. And then 19 was again it kind of expanded upon that. Was it actually called X9? Or
It was XIX 19.
yeah, that's right. And I guess that whole storyline focused around going from a year to a year as a new guy coming in to becoming the world champion at WrestleMania the year after. Yeah, that's a fair, competent story. But in terms of the mechanics, though, I don't recall enough of it. I guess again it followed on from 18. I think wasn't 18 and 19 the first time we saw Rob Van Dam in the game? Was he that?
Sorry. The
Yeah, wasn't that
Fine.
where Rob Van Dam actually made his game debut for WWE? Wasn't it in X8?
X8 for the GameCube, definitely, because at the time it was round about the time when Austin had his huge fallout with the WWE, because Austin was on the cover of that game and he was replaced with Rob Van Dam,
Yeah, that's right.
if I remember correctly.
Because I do think it's only. So I got this memory that it might be completely wrong. It's either X8 or X9 has the invasion stage, and it's the only one that has it. SmackDown never had the invasion stage. So you had the the Jeff Hardy Rob Van Dam match where you can kick them down into the area, the pit, effectively.
Yeah, that was the one. That was one of the very few matches where Rob Van Dam felt like ECW Rob Van Dam.
Yeah, He didn't have too many after that. Although he had a great match against Geraldine on Heat.
Yes, he did. But then again, you put RVD and Jolene in the match,
And it works. It's like
yeah.
it's like Daniels and AJ. You put Michaels and Kurt Angle. You put them in the ring together. They're just magic, and it works.
Yeah. Speaking of Rob Van Dam, he was DLC in the 2K18 game last year. I'm not too sure he'll make it into 19 this year.
No, 'cause I don't know what he's doing these days.
But I don't think he will.
No. So then the GameCube the GameCube as a console lasted 4 years in this generation. And I think so. They did Day of Reckoning, which was the sequel to 19. So I guess they dropped the WrestleMania title and went with their own story of its own. But I seem to recall there was WrestleMania 21 somewhere as well. But I'm now thinking,
yeah, that was on the Xbox.
that was an Xbox title, wasn't it? I can just see the
That
case
was a
going.
follow-up to Raw 2. You've just yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Day of
But
Reckoning.
that played exactly like Raw.
Yeah, I don't. It's certainly one I didn't buy. I guess that Raw had scarred me to a point where I didn't want to buy another Xbox wrestling game. I stayed with SmackDown, and that was it. That was like the best as you're gonna get. So, yeah, I think I stuck with the SmackDown games. I did buy Day of Reckoning, and that was pretty good. Again, it was very WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy-esque with the hold a button to grab, had like hard, light, and harder grabs. So it depends on how long you hold it, depends on what grab you did. And again, it was very much an arcade style pace as well. It picked up compared to 19 did, and it was good. It was different. Brock Lesnar was the main front cover star, I seem to recall. But I don't recall much of that. I think it actually had the Hell in a Cell. It was full, and I think it certainly had TLC in there as well. Actually, it had TLC that had ladders at different heights as well. It had the small ladders and the big ones.
Do you know? I think we're gonna have to try those out again.
Yeah, we are. So if anyone's up for doing pop on the emulator, we'll do these games for full. Do these games properly. We're gonna perhaps have to do a generation of wrestling games of a console, and we just play them like Xbox or GameCube or PlayStation 2, and we'll just play them for an afternoon and record all the clips and put them all together and make it into a fast action like montage shoot and give our feedback on what we found of the game.
Yeah. To be honest, over all the years, I still think that SmackDown was the one that it gave me the most exciting matches against friends in that.
Yeah, it did.
The matches were... It still had the realism in there, but it still had that arcade pace.
Well, yeah, SmackDown 2 definitely had arcade pace, man.
Oh, they died.
You try pulling off
keep
that...
anybody down.
No, you could throw the guy on the mat. That was it. You ain't hitting him with a swanton bomb or a moonsault.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think
as it went on, but they'll be up on the feet.
As he got better, he clearly became more sim based. Kind of teased more between arcade, then back towards sim, slowed it up a bit, speeded it up a bit, and I guess it's been trying to find the actual, what actually works. It is surprising we haven't seen other games like the Raw, like the GameCube style, like the WrestleMania X8. They experiment with other versions of wrestling since then, because there now is only the SmackDown since THQ went down south and I guess 2K Games picked it up. They're not willing to do any other wrestling games other than SmackDown as part of its main roster, as main license rather.
Yeah, but they just call it 2K now, don't they?
Yeah, there was.
I mean, it was the SmackDowns, then it was Raw versus SmackDown, and then they just went WWE yeah, and then to the THQ, then it was the K415.
Yeah, so when did the transition happen? Because I mean, I can remember me and Jay's talking about it quite a bit. Is like when that transition happened between from THQ ending, and it was like, well, we're not really going to get a 2K game
13.
for perhaps not this time round, because I guess Ukes have developed it, but they're not going to have their fingerprints on it. The one after will be the first 2K game. And I think that's why 14 felt a bit fresh in mind, because it felt like, oh, this seems new. The new kind of career mode going on with the Attitude Era. It felt like a whole new.
No,
Breath of Life.
Attitude Era was 13. That was THQ's last one.
Yeah, you're right. So you're right. The CM Punk one on the front cover.
Yeah, that's right. And 14 was
Daniel Bryan.
No, Daniel Bryan's never on the cover. It was
Wasn't it?
either The Rock. It was The Rock on 14,
No, The Rock on 14.
Cena on 15. Austin on 16. Rollins on 17. Brock on 18. And now it's AJ Styles.
I was surprised they didn't go with Styles and Charlotte Flair.
Yes. Yes.
You know, to have like, the equality
And
thing
that's
on
the
them.
thing they're going to start pushing for. 'Cause I do believe that at WrestleMania next year, I think they may push for the first female main event, and I think they'll go Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair,
Yeah, me too. It'd be, Ronda
because
and Charlotte.
that is the two big names. It doesn't get any bigger right now, I believe, in women's wrestling than Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey.
No, so
They're the
if they keep
two
them
that
apart
I think
now.
will main event.
So do you think that means that potentially Ronda will go on to win the Rumble, or even be champion by that point?
I don't know. I mean, Ronda Rousey. It depends on how they go. I mean, Ronda Rousey could just challenge Charlotte. That's it. You don't need to go through all of that. The Raw can win it, and Rousey can be over on SmackDown. If SmackDown ends up being the big show that the WWE might want it to be with this new move to another network.
Yeah, I think she'll be the face. She'll be the face of the company effectively.
Yes. If Ronda keeps getting as good as she has been over the last year or so, we could be in for a real treat, because Charlotte's a natural. Since she found her feet on the main roster, I mean, she was great in NXT. She came onto the main roster, and I felt she was a little bit deer in the headlights. It was all a bit much. And then she found her footing, and then it was like, right, let's get this shit done.
Yeah, I mean last year's WrestleMania was pretty sweet actually. She certainly looked like a star finally.
Yes.
I think she looked like the world champion she's supposed to be. And then there was a whole scene where Ronda's looking up at her, and like, it's fucking hell. Ronda really is quite small compared to Charlotte Flair. And he just like, stood over again. No, who are you, fucking you, little pit bull down there. Man, so this has been Wrestle DX Plus Alpha. We hope you've been enjoying us for the ride today, talking about wrestling and gaming all over the shop and going wherever the conversation takes us. So stick with us, and there's more to come in the future soon.